Whether you run a $100,000 company or a $10 million company or a $100 million company, at the end of the day, your job is to solve problems, acute problems for amazing people, and then you get to make an awesome profit. And if you are not willing to take on being as good at that as you can possibly be, you're going to get stuck in your business no matter how big or small it is right now.
Welcome to today's segment. I have a quick question for you. What would happen for you if you were able to take your leadership and be able to get booked effortlessly and use those bookings for interviews to grow your business even easier, more profitably, and also develop opportunities, partnerships, equity deals, and a whole lot more? Would that be of interest for you? Well, if so, today you are going to hear from one of the leading experts at being able to help do just that. His name is Nicky Billou. He's someone I got to meet through, I think we got introduced through Kevin Thompson, correct, Nicky?
That's right.
And he's an international best-selling author of 11 books. He's author of The Thought Leader Revolution. He works with entrepreneurs, maybe like you, as well as professionals on building and monetizing your expertise, your leadership, your talent, and a whole lot more. He's also the best-selling author of Finish Line Thinking, How to Win and Think Like a Champion. I mean, don't we need more of that in our society today? I mean, let's face it, we need more winning, more champions, and a whole lot more, and how to get booked and get paid. If that's something that interests you, you are going to love this segment with Nicky. He's a force for good. And Nicky, it's a pleasure to have you here today. How are you?
Dan, man, I'm blessed. I'm grateful. Thanks for having me on the show. Great to be here.
Absolutely. Now, we're going to dive into some strategy. By the time we're done, we're going to cover strategy. We're going to cover some of the things working right now, some of the things not working right now, how you've evolved, how you've helped your clients evolve to be able to get booked, get paid, monetize, optimize. I mean, become best-selling authors, be able to go out and, essentially build bigger followings, go from invisible to highly visible, being sought after, right? Speaking, podcasts, and a whole lot more. So Nicky, can you share with our viewers today, why are you doing what you're doing today?
Dan, that's a great question. Again, thanks for having me on the show. It's a real honor to be here. I'm joining you not from my usual haunts, which is Toronto, Canada, but Rancho Mirage, California. I'm sitting outside. It's 108 degrees, dry heat. Loving life. Really fun to be here. It's a bit of a working vacation I'm having with my good friend, business associate, and mentor, Mark Von Muser. And why do I do what I do? Well, a great way to answer that question is to tell you a bit about my backstory. I'm originally an immigrant from the Middle East. I'm a Christian from Iran. And if you've been paying attention to the news recently, you know that Iran was once a very pro-Western country under the leadership of His Royal Highness Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. But there was an Islamic revolution that overthrew him in 1979. And there were gun battles going on in the streets. And my mom and dad, they're looking around going, this is not a place to raise a Christian family. So they made a plan to get me and my two brothers out of Iran. And it took them a while. It took them 2 years to get us out from Iran to Greece, and then 2 more years from Greece to Canada, where I now live. And at that time, I was a kid. I didn't want to leave my home. I didn't want to leave my friends, as I'm sure you can appreciate, Dan, right?
Yeah.
But as time went on, I could see the awesome nobility of my mom and dad's sacrifice. Mom and dad left behind everything and everyone they knew and loved for a chance at a better life for me and my two brothers. And I started to see we went from a legacy of tyranny to a legacy of freedom, because I believe, Dan, inside every human breast beats the living heart of freedom. Every man, every woman on this planet yearns to breathe free air, to chart their own course, to march to the tune of their own drummer, okay? And if you're an entrepreneur, freedom means everything to you. Without freedom, you can't have free thought. Without free thought, you can't come up with the incredible ideas that make your business come alive. And without free thought and free expression, you can't have free enterprise. You have to lick a tyrant's boot just to get a few crumbs for you and your family. And I thought to myself, wow, I am so blessed. My mother, my father, these are incredible people. They have given me a chance to create a life, a beautiful life, a life of meaning, a life of fulfillment, and a life where I get to choose which direction I go. And I'm telling you and your listeners, everyone listening to this show, be grateful that you are living in a free society. if you're an American, and I'm assuming a lot of your listeners, if not the majority of them, are Americans, man, you're living in the greatest, freest nation on earth. You are blessed. You are lucky. And to me, the men and women who get this, those are my people. You know what I'm saying, Dan? Those are my people.
Yep.
The ones who understand how blessed, how grateful they are. That's what it's all about. And my father, God rest his soul, he passed away a little over 5 years ago. But Dan, if you'd have met him, you would have loved him. He's the single greatest human being I've ever been privileged to know, right? If you knew him and you were looking for work, Dad would call you up, sit in his office, clear his calendar, see if he could get you a job himself. If he couldn't, he'd call all his buddies and he'd ethically manipulate them till one of them gave you a job. If you were trying to start a business, man, bring you to his office, clear his calendar, listen to your ideas, give you his best advice, right? With a lot of focus and intensity. He'd introduce you to people who had capital. He'd introduce you to people who were potential clients for you. And if you were his friend and you were trying to buy a car or a house and the bank would only give you so much, you went up to him and you say, Mr. Billou, can I get a loan? I need 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 more. He'd write you a check. And then people would come back and you would go to him and you'd say, hey, here you go. I want to repay the loan. He says, what are you talking about? Get out of here. He says, no, that was a loan. He says, no, it's not a loan, right? He says, that was a gift. That was me doing something for you. And they go, well, what am I supposed to do with this money? Go help someone who needs help because I don't need your help. I'm good, right? And people come to me and they say, Nicky, is this for real? Like, who does that? Nobody does that. That's like some Hollywood movie, right? Like, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington or something like that. And I go, no, for real. My dad was like that. That's what he did. And they said, why? And I said, well, first and foremost, he was a devout and committed Christian. He believed he'd been saved and served by his Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And it was his duty to share those blessings with his fellow man and woman. But secondly, he did it because he could. He was successful. He was rich. And Dad would always tell me every day, son, life is about people. It's not about money. And I'd say to him, okay, Dad. And he said, son, even business is about people, not about money. And I said, Dad, but how's that possible? Without money, you can't do business. He says, that's true, son. But money is there to help people and solve their problems. What is business? Business, imagine a Venn diagram is about problems, people, and profit, right? That's the purpose of business. You solve acute problems for awesome people and you make an amazing profit, right? And my father, he would tell me this all the time. And he'd say to me, son, you got to believe in people. You got to encourage people because everybody, me, you, everybody needs a little belief, a little encouragement because there are days where our self-belief wobbles and we can't encourage ourselves. And that's when someone out there who sees your greatness can take your little spark of fear, turn it into a spark of belief and into a roaring fire of belief, right? I do what I do. I serve the entrepreneur because I want to honor my father. My father passed away February 23rd, 2020, and he passed the torch to me. And it's my job, man, to find the good men and women, the entrepreneurs, the people that make our society a better place, that help move the human race forward by having my father's belief in people and encouragement in people as the lodestar of how I move forward. So that's a little bit about me and my story and why I do what I do.
That's amazing. There's so much, Nicky, to unpack here. And I want to kind of back up just a little bit with your dad, right? You talked about your family going from a place, what most people can envision and have heard about, but you lived it over in Iran, basically in the streets, right? Chaos and tyranny, and go from that to liberty and freedom. And then you got to witness it with a role model, your father, right? Who demonstrated not just in words and what he said, but also how he showed up in the world and what he did. And it's obvious that you have a lot of belief. And so I want to kind of go back to maybe a childhood time that if you can remember being over there and, like today in the world, right? Lots of people live with these on their hands without even knowing it. Self-imposed belief, limitations, handcuffs, they're trapped, not even knowing it, right? And sometimes they say the prison is actually the four walls that we all live within, right? And being able to break that down. And so as I hear your story, Nicky, that's inspiring, and your dad and the role model you had, it's like, first of all, he recognized what some of those limitations were, and he just worked a way around it and set it aside and created better for you and your family. And obviously it takes a little bit more than that when you're moving like you all did. But like, as you think back to those early memories with your dad, and maybe you went through this, like, what were some of the early memories that you remember of your dad beyond what you shared that you could give advice of helping people break some of these self-limiting, self-imposing beliefs or handcuffs, if you will, that you got to watch firsthand as a kid?
Well, that's a great question. So my father in Iran had some folks who worked for him. And there was this one fellow, I think was the accountant in his organization. And his
Was he like Ben Affleck, the accountant, or was he like a normal
no, no,
accountant?
not like Ben Affleck, the accountant, brother. That's awesome. So this fellow, his parents were sick and he needed to buy like a bigger home, but he didn't have the money to do it. He just wanted to move his parents in with him. And my dad knew about it. And my dad went and told him, hey, so and so, your parents aren't well and you need to move them in with you. He said, yes, yes, I do. And he says, you don't really have room. He says, no, no, I don't. He said, well, now you do. He said, what do you mean? He said, I bought your house. Here you go.
Wow.
And the guy just looked at him and he says, no, no, you did what? And he just started to cry, and he just grabbed my dad's hands and he kissed them. And Iranians are very emotional people and they're very expressive of their emotions as well. And this guy became the most loyal of people to my father and stayed with him for another 35, 40 years until he passed and looked after my dad's business. Looked after the money, the whole bit. And, last summer, not to make this a political discussion, right? But last summer, President Trump, about a year ago, was shot at, right? He had a guy hit his ear with a bullet in Butler, Pennsylvania. And he ducked, but then he got up and he raised his fist and he said, fight, fight, fight. And a lot of people were incredibly impressed by that. They said, man, courage, bravery, that's the first emotion, right? That's the first virtue. But I believe the first virtue, and I think President Trump demonstrated it last year, is loyalty. The first virtue is loyalty. And if you think about, President Trump in this situation, he could have easily dropped out of the race after that, right? He could have said, you know what? I don't need this. I'm 78 years old. Someone just shot me. They're trying to kill me. But he had a loyalty to the American people and to a cause bigger than himself. And it made him step forward. And that loyalty gave him courage. That desire to make the country, to save the country, gave him courage. And my father believed in loyalty to the core of his being, and he was loyal to people. That's why people were loyal to him, because loyalty is the first virtue. When you're able to be loyal to people, that loyalty gives you strength, gives you courage, gives you the ability to face things. And that was my dad, man. He was the most loyal man I've ever known. I strive day to day to be 1/10 the man he was.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. What age were you, if you can recall this experience with the accountant? And
I think I was 8 years old.
8 years old.
Yeah.
It's so amazing, as fathers, right? As husbands, as leaders. I think sometimes we forget the influence we can have on the people closest to us versus those in our business community at times. And like you, Nicky, like my dad introduced me to personal development when I was 10. He took me to my first seminar when I was 10 years. It was for baseball.
Really? Where did he take you? Who'd you go see?
Eastern Michigan University. I went to a baseball clinic there with my dad. It was all college and high school coaches. Awesome. And I was the only kid other than the athletes for the college, Eastern Michigan, that were demonstrating a bunch of this stuff. And I ate it up, and I still have awesome. The manual from that camp or clinic all these years later. My dad founded the storage unit, and there's a page in this book that I can picture as clear as day. It said 90+% of success in life and baseball is mental. And I believe that to my core. And I had a dad that was a catalyst, like your dad was a catalyst to think bigger. And as you're watching or listening right now, whether you had that influence earlier, it's in the middle of your life or it's late in your life, it doesn't matter when it's been. Ideally, as you're hearing Nicky's story, that you can see yourself regardless of where you've been. It just matters where you want to go. And today is a defining moment. Either the moment defines you or you can define this moment moving forward to commit to having courage, to commit to that noble mindset or mentality, to commit to loyalty, to have a much bigger impact, a bigger reach, and make a bigger contribution. Now, we're just getting started, Nicky. There's so many ways I want to go with this, but as you've, built your business and you're helping thousands and thousands of entrepreneurs from all over the globe, you're helping people get bigger visibility, bigger reach, bigger opportunities, become leaders when they were unknown literally a few months before as a result of the work with you. What are some of the common mistakes that you see a lot of people making as they're trying to grow their influence or their brand or their visibility, if you will?
That's a fantastic question. So One of the things that a lot of people that are getting into business or even have been in business for a while do is they're just frightened of selling. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yes, I do.
They're frightened of selling. The idea of selling or marketing themselves is just scary. They don't want to be one of those pushy people reeking of commission breath as soon as they walk in the room. What's the problem with this? Well, you don't go after business you should be going after, right? So if you don't go after business you should be going after, you don't get that business. So that hurts you. It hurts your ability to provide for yourself and your family and the people that count on you. But it also hurts that client because a good, caring person who could have helped them doesn't. And then instead, some charlatan marketer will come in and swoop in and get that business because they have no such compunctions, right? And as a result, everybody loses. Think about it. Well, you lose because you don't get the business, you don't get the money, you stay stuck, your self-belief falters, right? Like we talked about earlier. The client gets hurt because if they get what they need, it's a happy accident because the charlatan didn't really try to very hard, right? Even the charlatan gets hurt because the iron law of what goes around comes around, or the law of karma, will come and bite them in the butt. The sum total of goodness in the world decreases when you are led by fear, okay? And here's the other thing. At the base of fear, at the base of a life less extraordinary, is a vile and vicious lie that you're telling yourself, right?
Yep.
The base of anything not going well is a lie that you're telling yourself. And that lie diminishes you, makes you smaller. So these folks that are saying, I don't want to be pushy, I don't want to be salesy, that's a lie. What they're really saying, the truth is they're scared. They're scared. They don't want to look bad. The imposter syndrome's there. That's the truth.
Yep.
Okay. And the reason they're scared is because all of the focus is on them, not where it belongs, on the other person. So Dan, if I'm having a sales conversation with you and the only thought in my head is, I hope he's going to like me. I hope he's going to do business with me. I hope he writes me a check or gives me his credit card. I'm going to have the anxiety start to like go up in my entire being. You're going to feel it. Even if I say all the right things, you're going to go, something doesn't seem right. Right?
Yep.
Now, if instead of thinking that when I come to you in a sales situation, I'm thinking, Lord, help me be of service. Help me get to know this man. Help me understand what he's dealing with. And if I am the one that you choose to be your servant in this instance, let that happen. And if I am not, let that be obvious to me soon. That if those thoughts are going through my head while I'm speaking to you, my focus is on you. I'm trying to understand you. You will feel that. Even if my syntax is terrible, you're not going to care because you're going to go, this is a good dude. He cares about me. This is not about his commission. You're going to feel that. That's not even going to be a thought that goes through your head, but you're going to feel it. He's not trying to rip me off. He's just trying to help. And okay, maybe his syntax isn't perfect, but that's okay because he's a good dude. And that matters more than good syntax. Being a good person matters more than having good syntax. A lot.
And it's funny you say this as you're sharing this, Nicky. I'm envisioning myself 15 years ago, even 10 years ago, 5 years, especially when I started. And I thoroughly believe this to be true. Hindsight is always 20/20. It's certainly easier. But, as I think about my journey, my fears, insecurities, I had crooked teeth. And one of my early mentors said, you'll never be able to be out front because, you don't look right. He used to call me 99 rows of teeth. And so as you're sharing this, I have come to realize, I believe there's so many more people that are standing in the shadows, They are holding back due to these, false lies, insecurities. And if they just stepped out and had a little bit of courage and be willing to actually fail and just be open to the idea that they don't have to be perfect, the syntax doesn't have to be exactly right, but if they just care about others, their life would change. What advice would you give in addition to what you just shared a second ago? What else would you share to someone who might be hearing this or listening to this? And, as you're watching or listening, like what if you, regardless of your success or track record, what if you increased your ability to be upfront just another 10% or 20%? Right? Because maybe you're pretty good right now, but is there a chance that maybe you're just holding back a little bit consciously or subconsciously or a little bit of both? Or you're playing in the shadow a little bit. You're playing a little bit smaller than you could be. What advice would you give to them Nikki, to move forward with confidence, with courage, and also just being that genuine person?
When you're in an interaction, any interaction, be it a sales conversation, be it a conversation with someone you're never going to see again, put your entire focus on that person and not how you think you're coming across. Put your entire focus on being curious and of having a desire to be of service. I'm telling you, that is a game changer. It's a freaking game changer. You know, I work with a lot of people that are really good at what they do, right? To be successful in business, you got to get your mindset right. You got to have expertise, right?
Yep.
You got to have real expertise, and you got to be good at business skills. Most people have the expertise nailed. They're good at what they do, clear, but their mindset is not nailed, and their business skills like sales and marketing is not nailed. And get the help you need to get good at those skills. And I got to tell you, if you're scared of selling, you need help.
Yep.
You need someone to rewire your brain, and you need someone to push you to go out there and have conversations with real people.
And it's funny you bring that up,
own.
Nikki, related to the conversation. So I have a quick question. I think
Sure.
this also will help people break a barrier or limiting belief, because I meet people, you probably meet people, they go, I've been talking to these referrals and I'm selling a lot of them. And then they start dealing with cold prospects. And then instead of recognizing what the truth is, they go, oh, the leads are bad.
No,
And
they're not bad. You just don't know them and they don't know you.
exactly. And there's a different approach. So what advice would you give related to bridge the gap? You probably already kind of addressed it, which is the capability, because the capability to enroll someone who's, from paid media, cold media versus warm media, referral traffic or word of mouth is a very different approach. Yet I find that everybody tries to do it the same way, the exact system, and that's where they fail. And then they go, the marketing. No, it's not the marketing. It's the approach. Speak to that a little bit.
Great question, man. So here's the truth. In selling, there are various places a person could be in their buying decision-making matrix, right? They could be ready to roll. I'm ready to buy right now. So boom, those people, you're going to be able to enroll them quickly into whatever you got going on. And there could be people that are like, I think maybe I need help, but I'm not sure. And I'm just getting started in the process of exploring. And that person is going to need to feel certain things before they decide to actually make a buying decision. So the first thing they got to feel is, I need to take action. Like, they got to get to a place where they believe they need to take action. The second thing is, they got to get to a place where I need to find someone who knows more than I do in this area to help me, right?
Yep.
And that means they got to go on and educate themselves. They need to meet a few people. You know what I mean? I'm talking about selling something that's, a relatively high ticket level of expertise, right? I'm not talking about buying like a $10 book or a $20 online course. I'm talking about like hiring somebody to work with you, where you're either going to need to give them like $5,000, $10,000 of money, or you're going to need to give them some sort of revenue share, like 5, 10, 15%. That could end up being a lot of money that's going to go out of pocket for you. Those types of decisions are going to involve you getting to know somebody, right? And all of those things need to be in place. And if you're the one doing the selling, you got to meet people where they're at, man. Not everyone's going to come to you ready to buy. That's the truth. And feel good about the people that come to you and are ready to buy. But if they're not ready to buy, just get curious. Help them see what life has been like. What is the impact of life for them currently or for the last 5 years? So as an example, Dan, let's say you and I are talking. Let's say maybe you're coming to me to help me with my business, right? The first thing you want to do is you want to know what reality is. And let's say I'd said to you, okay, Dan, my business, we've been doing good, but we haven't been growing much. We've been kind of like on a slow growth phase. And I really want to grow a lot faster, right? Well, the first thing you got to do is you got to go, okay, what's been the impact of this slow growth on him, on his self-belief, on his relationship with his wife, on his relationship with his children, on his relationship with his clients? What's been the impact on his health? Does he stay up at night running worry movies? You want to get really curious. And you also need me to get present to those impacts, right? Because if I'm shoving those impacts away, then I'm not going to be ready to take action.
Yeah.
But if those impacts all of a sudden are like front and center, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm fighting with my wife. I feel like a loser around my kids, and I stay up most nights sleeping only 3-4 hours because I run worry movies in my head all the time. Your job is to help me see all that and to feel that pain in that conversation. And if you're good at doing that, you're going to be able to move me from I'm not ready to buy to I'm ready to buy pretty quickly, And when I work with people who are scared of selling, I teach them how to do that. I teach them how to have a conversation with a person. And I go, look, you got to stop being scared and focusing on your fear. The person in front of you is a million times more scared than you. And not only are they more scared than you, they don't know how to get out of this. That's why they're talking to you. They think at some level it's not possible to fix this. They may present well to you and go, yeah, I know this will be fixed. But inside they're like, nope, this ain't ever going to get better. And that's been me in certain situations. February 2nd, 2023, over a 12-year period, I had gained over 50 pounds. I used to be a top fitness coach, and I was a fat, out of shape man. I took my shirt off and my gut was hanging over my belt. And I looked at myself in the mirror, and you've met my lady. She's a very stunning, gorgeous, beautiful, attractive, physically fit person. And I felt embarrassed that she looked so good and I didn't. That was bottom line. I'm like, she deserves a guy who matches her level of fitness and look. And I said, okay, screw it. I took myself to a place of I'm ready to act. I found a guy who helped guys like me and I bought instantly. But it took me 12 years of gaining weight every year and telling myself, oh, I'll lose it. I'll lose it this year. I know what to do, to get honest with myself and go, you know what? I ain't getting it done. I'm not a trainer anymore. I need a trainer.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And you have to be able to talk to people who are maybe not aware of the impact of all this on them. That's got to be your job. And if you can get those people aware of that impact, you're going to be able to move them from stuck to unstuck, from tragic to magic. And that's your job as a business person. Whether you run a $100,000 company or a $10 million company or a $100 million company, at the end of the day, your job is to solve problems, acute problems for amazing people, and then you get to make an awesome profit. And if you are not willing to take on being as good at that as you can possibly be, you're going to get stuck in your business, no matter how big or small it is right now.
There's so much wisdom, Nicky, in what you've just shared. As you're watching or listening right now, I mean, just this last few minutes is a wealth of wisdom for you to ultimately get more new clients, have conversations to get clients in a really cool way where it's less about speaking and more about listening and caring. And if that's an approach you like, in a minute, I want to give you an opportunity to learn how you can go deeper with Nicky and his resources and his tools and the different things that he's got available to help you and go much, much deeper compared to the short time we have here. But, I just want to recap a couple things. Is one, you want to identify where someone is in their client journey. Are they ready to buy? Or are they ready to not buy? And let's face it, as you're watching, we're listening, most people are not going to be ready to buy at this moment. And it's your job then to look to create a way for them to prepare to take action, as well as understand there's a big difference from learning from a pro and learning from an amateur. And you control how they view themselves, how they see themselves, even some of the examples that Nicky shared. Like, as an example, are you running worry movies? Well, what if you said that to somebody? Do you think that's going to stop them in their track? They haven't heard that many times today or yesterday or this week or this decade. And you'll be one person that they met that hears that and they're like, oh, it's a pattern interrupt. And it actually will start. Well, what would happen for you if you could actually start to see confident movies? That's what I help people do. All of a sudden, you're positioned as an expert just because you created an interruption and in a cool conversational way. On top of that, what it'd be worth to help you move people from stuck to unstuck, to tragic to magic. And so, Nicky, with that in mind, I got a couple other things I want to cover before we wrap up. But if people want to go deeper with you, if they want to learn how to get in touch with you, learn about what you're up to, how can they get in touch with you?
God, I have a very unique name, Nicky Billou. So I'm the only Nicky Billou on planet Earth. So if you go on most social media platforms, you should be able to find me. But if you want to have a conversation, I offer to do what I call a breakthrough success call for free with anybody. And all you got to do to get that is go to the following link, ecircleacademy.com/appointment, and say, hey, I heard you on Dan's podcast and let's have a conversation. Tell me what's going on. I'll listen. Let's take it from there.
So if you want to go deeper with Nicky, I encourage you, take action. Go to ecircleacademy.com/appointment. The links are going to be down here in the page. I don't know if they're over here, or down here. So ecircleacademy.com/appointment. Also, if you want to learn more about some of Nicky's work, you can go to ecircleacademy.com/B like boy, G like Gabe, P, and then book. GBGP book.
Yeah,
And
that's one of
get
my
access.
books.
And again, all the links are here on the page. Click the link. You can go get access to some of his work there. Also book an appointment at ecircleacademy.com/appointment. Now, Nicky, what's something I should have asked you that I hadn't asked yet?
Man, that's a great question. And a lot of people ask that question. So, one good question to ask someone like me is, what's the difference between an expert and a thought leader? And as a business owner, why do I want to be a thought leader? And why isn't it good enough just to be an expert? Right. So that's a good question. So
let's go with that.
Yeah. So an expert is like a cover band, while a thought leader is like someone who creates and plays original music. Okay. Another way to put it is an expert is someone who knows something, but they're invisible, while a thought leader is someone who is very visible and very known for knowing something. And one of my clients today, like a couple hours ago, we had our weekly call on Tuesdays. She's a career coach. That's the best way to describe it. That's not exactly her title, but to help people understand what it is, that's what she does. She used to be a very senior HR executive. She made $700,000 a year, and she went off on her own a little while ago. And she's been working really hard to be known for what she knows. And interestingly enough, her win today wasn't that she signed a new client, although she's in the process of signing a few new clients this week. Someone contacted her because she is in the top 150 thought leaders on LinkedIn around career and career coaching. So her posts, her ideas, her comments, top 150. So she gets a lot of engagement for her stuff, right?
Yep.
Someone said, hey, I am reaching out to you on behalf of so-and-so. So-and-so is one of the largest recruiters in this particular industry, and it's an individual, right? So, and he's heard about your work, and he has a few of his clients that he believes would benefit from meeting you. So she works with people just a level or two below the C-suite who've been stalled in their career and want to get to the C-suite. That's kind of her shtick, how to help them navigate that whole journey. And she's really, really good at it, right? She's helped some folks do that. And anyways, so she's got a meeting with this guy who found her, who sought her out. And you think about that. So she could absolutely go and approach someone like this, but the chances of her getting a meeting with him are low. But by being seen and known as the thought leader, this fellow approached her. And he said 4 to 5 clients to give her. That's worth 6 figures to her. Six figures awesome. to do that, right? And I'll give you another example of a fellow that I worked with. So this man was an executive coach, but before that, he was an executive vice president of a large manufacturing concern in my home province of Ontario. Province is like a state. Ontario is like Canada's California and Texas and Florida rolled into one. Like 40% of the country lives in Ontario. So it's pretty big. So he loved what he did when he was an executive vice president, but he hated how much he had to work. He was 57 when I met him. And buddy, he was working 60 hours a week and he was sick of it. So he quit to become an executive coach, and he loved coaching. He loved it. But he came to me again because one of my clients was in a BNI. You familiar with BNI? Oh, yeah. Ivan Meisner, he's a good dude. Actually, I know him. He's been on my podcast a couple times. I think I'm going to see him in a couple of weeks because I'm speaking at an event that he's at. So it's kind of cool. So this client of mine, we'd helped him go from broke to $1 million a year, and he was a fitness coach. So this guy said, listen, Dan, because my client's name was Dan. He said, Dan, I say this with all the love and respect in the world. Okay. You're a great guy. But when it comes to business, you're a dummy. He says, no offense. Dan goes, none taken, man. I'm making $1 million a year. You want to call me a dummy? Call me a dummy. I don't care. He said, how come you're making $1 million a year and I'm making $70,000? Because he used to make $350,000 as the executive VP of this manufacturing company. So he says, you got to go talk to Nicky Billou. And he says, who's Nicky Billou? He says, right here, listen to a couple podcast episodes. He's my coach. He helped me. That's why I do what I do. So he reaches out to me And I go, okay. His name was Carl Kramer. I said, okay, Carl, tell me about you and your business and, all of that. So he told me his whole story, being executive vice president. And he said, all I want to do is I want to make the same amount of money I used to make, but I don't want to work 60 hours a week. I want to work like 20, 30 hours a week. I said, okay. I said, all right, well, let's take a look at your business. He said, okay, great. I said, so what's your expertise? Like, who do you help? What's the major itch you help them scratch? He said, oh, Nicky, listen, I'm a man with 35 years business experience. I can help people with any business issue that they happen to have. And, I don't want to limit myself. And I said, stop. I said, that's your whole problem. You're not standing out. You're trying to be all things to all people because you're afraid you're going to miss out on business. And that's why you're making this money. He said, so what should I do? I said, we're going to do a little exercise. He said, okay. I said, it's called the ideal client exercise. And we're going to use a Venn diagram. I kind of like using Venn diagrams to teach people concepts, right? So yep. I said, I want you to, in the first circle, write best results. In the second circle, I want you to write love the most. In the third circle, I want you to write easiest to do business with. He said, okay, what do all these mean? I said, I want you to go make a list of everybody that you got the best results for as a coach. He said, okay. So he did that. I want you to make a list of everybody that you loved and enjoyed working with the most. They were your favorite people. When they called you, there was a smile on your face. They go, okay. And then the third one was, I want you to make a list of everybody that was easy to do business with, i.e., like, okay, I'm in, full payment, upfront, here's 10 referrals, easy to do business with, right? And he did that. I said, okay, who's on all three lists? And he said, there's about a dozen people that are on all three lists. I go, okay, that's your ideal client. He says, that's pretty clever. I go, yeah, it is pretty clever. You're right. And I said, what do they all have in common? He said, oh. He said, okay, well, they're almost all men. I think there was one woman there. So I said, all right, that's good to know. He said, they were all over 45. Good to know that too. And they're all entrepreneurs. And the vast majority of them were solo practitioner lawyers. I go, interesting. And so what do they come to you for? He said, they all wanted to grow their law practice. They wanted to double, triple, quadruple it. I go, okay, great. So we are going to help you create content and messaging that is all about you helping solo practitioner lawyers double, triple their business. And you're going to start talking about that. And LinkedIn's going to be the best place for you because that's where most of these guys hang out. So remember, he was making $350,000 a year and he was down to $70,000 a year, which is just under $6,000 a month. Think about that, right? 72,000 would be 6,000 a month.
Yep.
So it took him 6 months to implement all this. Okay. But in his 6 month, he was doing 40 grand a month and then 50 grand a month. So that's like 480,000 to 600,000 a year, more money than he made as an executive VP. And he was only working 30 hours a week instead of 60. So this was expert, knows everything about a lot of things in business, to thought leader. I'm the man. If you're a lawyer and you want to double, triple your practice, you're a solo practitioner lawyer, I'm your man. I know everything there is to know about how to help you do that. And this was awesome. There's a little bit of a sad ending to the story. Within 4 years, he got pancreatic cancer. And within a year, he was dead. Carl Kramer was a great man. And a lot of people, when I tell them this, they go, oh my God, that's terrible. I mean, don't you think that's like a loss? I mean, just when he got his life together, he died. And I said, the two don't have anything to do with each other. I said, I am proud of Carl because Carl went to his maker having fulfilled his potential, having fulfilled his destiny. He had a level of self-belief, of self-confidence. He lived those last 4 or 5 years of his life feeling amazing about who he was helping, how much money he was earning, and about himself and how he was contributing. And that's a beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful thing, Nicky. And as you're watching or you're listening right now, if you want to find a way to be able to turn from expert to thought leader, to position yourself to work with people you love, to be able to work with people that are the easiest to work with, who pay you the most, who refer you the most, as well as those who are just enjoyable and you do what you love, then I want to encourage you to schedule a time to get with Nicky to see how he can help you grow your business, grow your impact. You can go to ecircleacademy.com/appointment. That's ecircleacademy.com/appointment. You can also get his book in the links below at ecircleacademy.com/GBGP book. And the links are down below. You can go there. But Nicky, as we wrap this up, what are 1 to 3 action steps that you would hope our listeners and our viewers take action on?
Well, first off, go pick up a free copy of the Get Book, Get Paid book. You provided them with a link and book a call with me. Let's have a conversation. And that's step number one. God rewards decisive action takers. Whenever I've gotten into action, good things have happened for me. You know what I mean? That's how come I lost 58 pounds in 6 months. That's how come you and I got to meet, because I signed up to join Kevin Thompson's mastermind. Good things happen. And I want to just encourage you, like, you've been given a chance, take action. Don't just listen and go, oh, that was nice, and then forget all about it. So that's number one. Number two is be ruthlessly honest with yourself. Okay. If your business isn't growing, if your business is suffering in any way, shape, or form, at the core of that is a lie you're telling yourself. And you need to identify that lie, and you need to start telling the truth. I started to lose weight when I stopped lying to myself that, hey, I'm a personal trainer, I know what to do. I was not a personal trainer anymore, right? I was lying to myself. And when I told the truth, you're not a personal trainer anymore, you need one, that's when I got myself into shape. So stop lying to yourself. Start telling the truth to yourself ruthlessly, because it's going to take a level of ruthlessness, right, to do that.
Yep.
And thirdly, if you like and enjoy Dan's podcast and the guests that he brings on, I want you to do a couple things for Dan. First of all, go on Apple or Spotify, wherever you listen to the show, and give it a like, give it a rating, give it a review, because that helps with the algorithm. When you do that, the algorithm says, oh, this is fresh, relevant content, and it's going to get more people to listen to. So you're helping Dan out, and Dan's spending a lot of time, energy, money putting this podcast together for you. And he doesn't charge for it, right? He could, but he doesn't. So help him out by spending 2 minutes to give it a like, give us a rating, give it a review. You do that, you're going to help somebody else who needs the types of messages that Dan and his guests bring to them. Those are my 3 steps.
That's amazing. So get the book a call with Nicky, take decisive action, be ruthlessly honest with yourself, watch out for the big lie. Watch out for the big lie and be ruthless about it, and go leave a review. Nicky, this has been amazing. I like to close with some personal stuff off the cuff here. If you were to thank your wife for how she has supported you, shown up for you, allowing you to be your very best self, what would you thank your wife for?
I'd thank her for trusting me and loving me and saying yes all those years ago. She's terrific. I'm a blessed man. I am a very, very, very blessed man. So that's what I'd say.
Well, we're blessed to have you a part of our episode today. So as you're watching or listening, I encourage you, take action with what Nicky has shared with you. I've got 6 pages of notes here. I want to encourage you. Number 1, be thinking about how to be a champion and how to set yourself up to win. How people over money, people before money, how to honor those before you, like Nicky has done with his father, how to show up in nobility, right? How to move from a place of tyranny to ultimate freedom and liberty, how to be able to identify what are some of your virtues, get clear on your identity, the virtue of loyalty, the virtue of courage, and there's a whole lot more. How you can go from being on the outside to being on the inside, how you can go from invisible to being visible, how to go from stuck to unstuck, how to identify if someone's ready to buy or not ready to buy, and what are the pathways to help move them through a just natural, organic kind of conversation. And it might start with, what movie are you playing? Do you have worry movies or do you have confident movies? Which one do you have going on right now? You heard the story of Carl Kramer, and that powerful example. And then Nicky opened his door to say, hey, if you're looking for a way to be able to grow, to get help, to go to that next level, to double, to triple, to get more clarity, to get more confidence, it's real easy. You can take the next step by going and booking an appointment. You can go to ecircleacademy.com/appointment, ecircleacademy.com/appointment. Nicky, it's been a pleasure and a privilege. Awesome to be with you today. Thanks. You. Take action with what you've heard and listened to. We'll see you on another segment Around the Bend. Bye for now.